Are we supposed to be looking for key?
There's 4 more.
There's just one.
Oh, hello. Oh, do we have to let him out?
Oh, look at.
Oh! Oh!
The guy just ran toward.
Oh! Go away! Oh my.
Hey everyone, how's it going? And thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to watch our review. Today we're going to be reviewing Interstellar Marines. Now, what is Interstellar Marines exactly? Interstellar Marines is a first-person shooter sci-fi survival objective game. The goal of the game is varied throughout different missions and types of play, which is great for the game's shelf life. A combined multiplayer, single-player aspect caters for all types of gamers, whether they are looking for a competitive experience or even single-player experiences. Now, we want to make a disclaimer about Interstellar Marines. Many of you, if you go on Steam, look at the reviews, you're going to see it's mixed. Recently, you have mixed reviews, a lot of negative reviews, because a lot of people think the game is dead. Well, I'm here to tell you that the game is not dead. The reason you might think Interstellar Marines is a dead game, because it really hasn't been updated at all. And the reason for that is the company or the developers that made the game is now a developer. There's only one developer left from the group. I don't know what happened with the group, but there's only one left. And you could imagine how hard it's to run a game that is actually pretty good, high quality game by yourself. It is going to be very hard. You may ask, how do we know this information? Did we get some secret type of information? Well, no. On Steam, the developers of the game get to update you with like under the achievement bars, where that kind of section is. Under there, they have like patch note updates. Under that, there's a patch note update from the developer, or I guess, yeah, patch note update from the developers saying that the game is not dead. That is literally what it's called. So this review isn't only going to be just a review about the game. It's more of a PSA, I guess you would call it, for people to be aware of Interstellar Marines, because we found throughout our time playing the game that this is actually a really good game. And if there were more developers, or if they came back, oh my god, this would be a spectacular game. So first we're going to get into the positives of the game, which there are actually quite a few positives to talk about for this. One of the first positives we have to mention is that the multiplayer in this game is absolutely phenomenal. There's so many different types of game modes, so many different ways you could play, that it's really fun. If you get a lot of people to join in on your like party or whatever, this could be so much fun. I could see how you could play for hours and hours on this game. I mean, just look at the screen you're looking at right now. There are so many different game modes you could play. There's single player, there's co-op, there's multiplayer, there's even a Hunger Game types thing. I can't exactly remember the name, but there are a lot of games to play. It's not just one game mode that you have to play. Talking about the specific game modes, there's co-op, which means you could literally be in an arena and it's basically a free-for-all, 2 different teams. There's also a mode where you have to survive throughout this base, complete different missions, complete different tasks. There are a lot of game modes with different varieties and different objectives you could do, and it's actually a lot of fun. We played multiple game modes, and you're going to be seeing that throughout the video. But this game isn't really known for its single player, and we're going to be talking about that more later on. But the multiplayer, if you can get a lot of your friends to buy this game, the multiplayer can be loads of fun. Now let's move on to the graphics of the game. For how much or what is left of the developers, the graphics are actually not that bad. They're decent. I'm not going to say that they're the best of graphics, but they are pretty good. But if you're talking about graphics of the map, the atmosphere of the game, that blew us out of the water. It honestly did. Let's talk about the map quality of the game. The map quality of the game is something that blew me and Daniel out of the water. It literally puts Overwatch to shame, TF2 to shame, Siege to shame. The maps in this game are honestly so good. The atmosphere in the maps is honestly really terrifying, especially in co-ops as well as in other game modes. But especially in co-ops, there's a swamp map that I think is my favorite, where you're underground, and then like it's like a training facility, and like the daylight changes, it can go from like sunny to like cloudy and foggy to like nighttime and foggy, and it's honestly terrifying. It's Halloween this month, people. It's spooky time. You should think about buying this game if you want something in the horror genre. I wouldn't say it's horror, I would say it's kind of scary, so keep your eye out for this game. As you can see here, the quality of the map, the quality of the atmosphere, for the game size of the developers, it's actually really good. It really puts you in your place, the atmosphere. It's so good. I'm actually pretty spooked. Like, it's pretty spooky, I'm not gonna lie, because it's spooky times. Put spooky time aside though, the maps are really well made. They're so large that it's made for really 16 people, which is a good thing. It's a large maps. They're really well made, really detailed, and the atmosphere makes you... It's honestly really terrifying, actually. Some of these maps and some of the modes they put in, like the sunlight will change. It's gonna go from day to night in a swamp, and it's absolutely terrifying. Let's talk about the map quality of the game. The map quality of the game is something that blew me and Daniel out of the water. It literally puts Overwatch to shame, TF2 to shame, Siege to shame. The maps in this game are honestly so good. The atmosphere in the maps is honestly really terrifying, especially in co-ops, as well as in other game modes. But especially in co-ops, there's a swamp map that I think is my favorite, where you're underground. And then like it's like a training facility, and like the daylight changes, it can go from like sunny to like cloudy and foggy to like nighttime and foggy, and it's honestly terrifying. It's Halloween this month, people. It's spooky time. You should think about buying this game if you want something in the horror genre. I wouldn't say it's horror, I would say it's kind of scary, so keep your eye out for this game. All the little details the map has, with the different lighting, different time of days, the fog, the swamp, the buildings, and the eeriness of not knowing where your opponent is. To be fair, me and Daniel were 1v1ing, and the map is made for an 8v8, so when it's an 8v8, it's gonna be so much fun. Like, it really will be. Another great fact about the atmosphere of the game is there's a mode where you have to survive basically a base surrounded by robots that want to kill you. It is so dark in there that it is honestly terrifying. Even with Daniel playing with me, oof, it is terrifying. Another positive about the game is not all games have these, but you can have your own private game. I'm looking at you, Hunter Primal, I'm calling you out. You can't really have like a private game in Hunter Primal, but Interstellar Marines, you can have some private games, and that's nice if you want to play with just a friend or a couple of friends, and it's really nice. I like that aspect of the game. And then the little details of this game, like the rain falling onto your mask, the particles you shoot when you shoot some certain boxes, the water in the game, the weather in the game. It's just all the little details are pretty good. Even like the moon looking out when you're in a base. It just makes the game a lot more better, and I really like that the developers took that into consideration, those small little details. One more positive that I don't really think a lot of people would know is that at least the remaining developer, is honest. He's basically saying that, hey, I'm having struggled to update the game because I'm the only one. So at least they're letting the community know that they're going to be updating the game. They're going to be doing some things. There's even game modes that are being added when there's only one developer. That takes a lot of work, and I gotta applaud the man or the woman behind it, because it takes a lot of work to do something like that. Another positive we want to mention is the game runs really smooth. The way your gun reloads, the way the gun fires, the way enemies fall or when you kill them, it just runs really smooth, and I like that. It's not a lot of like, you know, weird movement and stuff like that, but it just runs really smooth. And another small positive you want to mention as well is that the game is really affordable. It's $10. Like, it's not expensive at all, and we think that's really a bargain for how much the game has to offer, how many game modes there are, the content of the game, the quality of the game. It's really a bargain. Like Siege and COD, those are like pretty expensive, and if you're like maybe don't have a lot of money right now, this could be a game you should be on the lookout for. But now, as in every game, there are going to be some negatives, and in this game there are negatives that need to be addressed. Probably the most common negative we found throughout our time playing the game is that there are a lot of glitches in the game. Like, I mean, there are a lot of glitches in the game, and we could spend hours just naming the glitches. Like in this clip we're watching right now, me and Daniel are in an elevator, and on my screen, Daniel is literally going through the floor of the elevator. He's literally bouncing up and down through the floor of the elevator. And that's just, it just looks weird. It's something that's not like a huge issue, but it can be fixed and just look visually unappealing. It's confusing. Also, in this clip right here you're watching too, I shot Daniel because friendly fire is turned on, and I'll talk about that in a second. I shot Daniel for like, because I was trolling him, and I couldn't even revive him, but that's not really an issue of the game. But when I did revive him, he fell through the elevator into space and died. And if that's not a glitch, I don't really know what a glitch is, because that's something that's really annoying, because you're going to have your entire group in order to move on, and that should really be addressed. And once those glitches are addressed, I feel like the quality of the game would be much improved. And now the friendly fire option in the game, I can see why it's there. It's fun to just mess around with your teammate once in a while, but it's also really annoying. For example, when you're just trying to kill, let's say, one of the robots at the base, and then your friend accidentally gets in your range of fire, you're not just going to kill the robot, you're going to kill him too. And if you die and you're the only two, what are you going to do? Because that almost happened to us, where we lost a game because I somehow ran into Daniel's fire, which I still think is wrong, but that's not the point. Is that we could have lost the game because friendly fire. Maybe there's an option that turns off friendly fire, but what I've seen, there's not really an option to turn that off. I could be horrifically wrong with that observation though. Maybe there is an option that turns off friendly fire and I just didn't know it. If there is, mention it to me, because it's super annoying. Now enough with the glitches, because there are a lot of more glitches that we could talk about as well. Weird camera angles, your gun pointing weirdly, and other things, but we're going to move on from that, because that can be quickly fixed in updates like that, and they're like small tweaks. It's nothing like super bugging that's like, oh, it's unplayable. It's more that's just like, oh, it's somewhat annoying. Now we're going to move on to single player, and the reason why I bring up single player is the single player needs to have work on. In order to gain an audience, you don't just need a good multiplayer, you also need single player. And in the single player mode, there's not a lot of missions, there's not a lot of like things you could do. Sure, there are like, I think 5 missions in it, but once you complete that, what? You're done? You're done with the game? What if you have no friends to play with? What are you gonna do? Single player just needs a lot more missions, a lot more content, and just things like that I feel will improve the game a lot better. Now to mention single player, and I think in multiplayer there is too, there's like a story in these missions, but the thing is, the story is a very small part of the mission that I really don't care about the story, and I don't even know if it's even a good story. I feel like you could make maybe the story a lot more relevant to the mission, maybe make the player more engaged to the story, because right now there is a story. If I had to tell you what the story was about, it really beats me. Now we're going to talk about the community size, and the reason I'm not saying this is a negative or a positive, I'm going to call this a neutral, is I don't really know if this really negatively impacts the game, but I also really don't know how to like fix the problem in this game, which is why we want to review this game. The community in this game is virtually non-existent. There is pretty much no one playing the game, and if you can see in this clip here, when I click on the servers on multiplayer, I think there's like 1 or 2 people playing on these entire servers, and these are servers in North America and servers on the European side. There's literally 2 people playing, 4 people if you count me and Daniel. I'm guessing why part of the reason the community got so small was because of the lack of updates when it was early access, and that is entirely, I think, at least the developers' fault. When they had the group together, when they had all those people together, yes, they needed people to buy the game, but they needed to update the game as well along with it. That will keep their community intact. But I can't really blame the developers either, because it's hard to keep your community intact when you're one developer now. But this is the reason why we decided to review this game, because the game is actually really good. There's so much to do. It's actually really fun content. We just want to spread the word about Interstellar Marines so it can gain back its community it had when it was early access, which was actually pretty large. At least I thought, at least at the time. with the type of quality the game has, we really think that the community should be much larger than it is right now. If you could just get your friend and maybe another friend to play this game, because it's really affordable, you're going to have a blast with this game. Trust me, it's really fun. Even with the glitches, even with the negatives, you're really going to enjoy this game. And we think you should really take it into consideration for buying. Maybe during the winter Steam sale or summer Steam sale. I imagine this game's going to be like a lot off sale-wise. Like maybe half off, $5. Like it's a bargain for what this game has to offer. Overall, Interstellar Marines is a great game, we think. Excellent graphic as well as with amazing sound design and solid gameplay all combined together to create a component first-person shooter. Along with surprisingly good multiplayer, Interstellar Marines could become a quick favorite across gamers from Steam. The only issue with all of this, however, is the lack of community like we mentioned. The game suffers from a severe lack of players, which could hold back the game even with this solid foundations. So we want you to go and take a look at Interstellar Marines. If it interests you, buy the game. It's really worth your time. We hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you in the next one.
Behind you!
Can you? I'm reloading, Daniel. I can't do this.
Wow.
Dinner behind you!
Oh no, I can't reload! Behind you!
That's so autistic.